I remember it vividly, even though it's been years. My name is Jack, and I'm a middle-aged man living a quiet life on the outskirts of a small town. I had always been a skeptic, never believing in the supernatural or extraterrestrial. But one night changed everything. It was a chilly autumn evening, the kind where the air is crisp and the moon hangs low, casting an eerie glow over the landscape. My wife was away visiting her sister, and I was alone in the house, enjoying the solitude. I had settled into my recliner with a glass of whiskey, the soft hum of the TV in the background. The clock struck midnight. That's when I first noticed it. A strange humming noise, faint at first, but growing louder. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. I muted the TV, straining to listen. The hum was rhythmic, almost hypnotic, drawing me towards the window. As I pulled back the curtain, my heart skipped a beat. There, hovering just above the treetops, was a light. Not just any light, but a bright pulsating orb that seemed to defy all logic. It moved silently with a grace that was both mesmerizing and terrifying. I watched in stunned silence as it descended slowly, coming to rest in the clearing behind my house. I should have called someone, the police, my wife, anyone. But curiosity got the better of me. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside, the cold night air biting at my skin. The hum grew louder as I approached the clearing, the light now so bright it illuminated the entire area. And then I saw it. A figure stood in the middle of the clearing, tall and slender, with eyes that glowed an unnatural shade of green. It was humanoid, but there was something off, something that made my skin crawl. The figure raised a hand, and suddenly I was paralyzed. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. I was trapped in its gaze, my mind racing with fear and confusion. The next thing I knew, I was lying on a cold metal table, surrounded by blinding lights and shadowy figures. I tried to speak, but no sound came out. My body felt heavy, unresponsive. I could hear voices, strange and garbled, like a radio signal not quite tuned in. They were discussing something, but I couldn't understand. Then came the pain. Sharp, searing pain, like nothing I had ever felt before. It coursed through my body, leaving me gasping for breath. The figures moved around me, their movements methodical and precise. I could feel them probing, examining, like I was nothing more than a specimen. I wanted to scream, to beg them to stop, but my voice remained silent. Just as suddenly as it began, it was over. I woke up in my bed, drenched in sweat, my heart pounding. For a moment, I thought it had all been a nightmare, but then I saw the marks. Strange, circular scars on my arms and chest, like burn marks. I knew then that it was real. I tried to go on with my life, to forget what had happened, but the nightmares continued, each one more vivid than the last. I would wake up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, the sound of that haunting hum echoing in my ears. I couldn't escape it. I started researching, trying to find answers. I found others who had experienced similar things, people who spoke of abductions and experiments. They all had the same haunted look in their eyes, the same scars. I wasn't alone. But the worst part, they came back. The visits became more frequent, more invasive. Each time I would wake up with new scars, new memories that I couldn't quite piece together. I was losing my mind, my grip on reality slipping away. I remember one particular night about 6 months after the first incident. I was lying in bed, trying to force myself to sleep, when I heard the hum again. My blood ran cold. I knew what was coming, but I was powerless to stop it. I tried to fight, to stay awake, but the hum grew louder, more insistent. My eyelids grew heavy, and despite my best efforts, I drifted off. When I woke, I was back on the cold metal table. The figures were there, their eyes glowing in the darkness. This time the pain was worse. It felt like they were inside my mind, probing my thoughts, my memories. I could feel them sifting through my brain, searching for something. It was a violation beyond anything physical. I started to lose track of time. Days blended into nights, reality into nightmare. I became paranoid, always looking over my shoulder, jumping at the slightest sound. My wife returned home, but I couldn't tell her. She would think I was crazy, and maybe I was. I started drinking more, trying to drown out the memories, the fear. But it didn't help. Nothing did. I found a support group online, people who claimed to have similar experiences. We shared our stories, our fears. It was a small comfort knowing I wasn't alone, but it didn't change the fact that they were still out there, watching, waiting. Some nights, I would sit by the window, watching the sky, waiting for the light to return. Part of me hoped it never would, but another part, the part that needed answers, almost wanted it to. One night, I decided to set up a camera in the clearing. I needed proof, something tangible to convince myself and others that I wasn't losing my mind. I stayed up all night, watching the footage, but nothing happened. I felt a strange mix of relief and disappointment. Maybe it was over. Maybe they had moved on. But then, 2 nights later, it happened again. The hum, the light, the paralysis. I was taken, and this time it was worse than ever. They were angry, frustrated. I could feel their emotions, their urgency. They were looking for something, and they weren't finding it. The pain was unbearable, and I thought I was going to die. But just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. I was back in my bed, the familiar scars aching, my mind a jumbled mess. I don't know why they chose me, what they want, but I know one thing for sure. They're still out there, watching, waiting. And one day, they'll come for me again. And next time, I might not come back. So, if you ever hear a strange hum in the middle of the night, if you see a light that doesn't belong, remember my story. Be afraid, because they're real and they're coming.